you're tired of hearing the same old basic mindset and motivational fluff talk, you've come to the right show. Welcome to Project Me with Tiffany Carter, the podcast, where we dish on everything from managing that crazy brain of yours to manifesting abundance to my straightforward, actionable steps that will make you major money online. Now, I'm not your typical multimillionaire entrepreneur. It takes a small village to keep my anxiety and depression in check. I'm inherently disorganized with an intense obsession with office supplies. Your girl here is a digital marketing content expert who's generated over $200 million in sales. I promise by tuning in twice a week, you will get a much needed refreshing dose of truth, clarity, and cash-making advice. Now let's get to it. In the 20 years that I've been practicing manifestation and law of attraction techniques that have taken me from making $17,000 a year to having millions in the bank, I've learned a key thing. The longer that you stay in a zone where you have a true deep knowing that this is possible for you, this is happening for you, whether that is making money in your business, whether that is having the freedom to do what you want when you want, whether that's traveling the world, whether that's bringing in the love of your life or beautiful, genuine friends, the longer you stay in that zone, which I have now coined as the abundant zone, the more it's going to happen and at a faster speed. The problem is most people aren't disciplined enough and don't prioritize doing the work to stay in this zone as long as possible. They slip out of it and stay out of it and then maybe come back in when they're in enough pain. And so what I've created in my abundance guided meditation series for you is a way to slip back into and stay into the abundance zone as much as possible in just a few minutes a day. This is the new series. It's called Your Season of Abundance because all of this is here for you. Everything you want. What's blocking you is your resistance to it. It's all of that money noise static in your brain that is breaking that frequency from having those opportunities, those people, that money flowing into you. And this is your solution in order to be able to release it. You're just going to walk your way into the abundance zone. It works in just a few minutes a day, and you can get that for free right now by swiping up. It's inside the show notes or going to projectmewithtiffany.com/season of abundance. projectmewithtiffany.com/season of abundance. And again, just swipe up. It's in the show notes. It's free for a limited time, and share it with any of your friends or family who are really wanting to use a meditative practice where you're actually moving your body to get your cells open and receptive to receiving the very things that you so deeply desire and deserve. Welcome to Project Me with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. I'm your host, Tiffany, and I met this wild individual in this recent 3-day mastermind that I was at, Kathy Heller's in-person mastermind event. And you know how you guys, when you go to events, whether it's like a big one or it's a small gathering or even a party, there's people who you're naturally drawn to. Then there's people you naturally are like, I'm avoiding this person. This has bad vibes, right? And instantly, this guest that I'm bringing on today, this magical, fascinating creature, instantly attracted to her. She was instantly attracted to me. And we're going to get into why that happens. And so that you can take a note in your own life and really have that observation. It's so cool because I walked in wearing a necklace that said, fuck, naturally. And naturally. And she had a necklace that said wet pussy. And it's
pussy magic.
Oh, pussy magic. I thought it said wet pussy. Well, that's what's on my mind. Okay, well,
nothing wrong with that.
I mean, pussy magic. Okay. I don't know where I got that from, but I like that too. And I was like, I didn't even notice it because it was in like kind of a cursive font. And then I saw it and I was like, okay, wow. That's someone who wants to make a statement. That's someone who is in that zero fucks given zone I talk about. And I wanted to know more. So I have brought on Po Hung Yu. She is so many things, but her official title is a spiritual advisor, somatic energy healer, and embodiment teacher. And we were talking before the show, channeling like what we felt you guys could really need. And I feel, and of course you can blow up my DMs if you want, if I'm wrong, but I'm vibing that you've been at this like settling level in different areas of your life. It could be your money area is kind of settled at a certain amount that you're not happy with, your love area, even your weight, maybe friendships, community support. It's like, it's stagnant energy. And you feel like you're someone who's a go-getter. You're someone who will do all the things, and you feel like you're trying all the things and nothing's really working. And I have found from doing my own work, what we're talking about today is the key to getting there, but there's a catch to it. And we're going to talk about that. So welcome to the show, Po.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. That was such an amazing intro. I'm like, that's me.
Why is it, do you think, that it is so much more comfortable for people to do traditional like therapy work, head work, talk therapy, mindset, even coaching and stuff like that? But then when it starts any kind of work that I call below the neck, right, that involves the body, people either subconsciously or consciously resist doing that work.
Yeah. There's a couple things I want to say to that. First of all, sometimes when people do mindset work, they're not really doing it correctly, because for me, mindset work includes the body. Okay, because we're rewiring and reprogramming the system, the actual nervous system, and the cellular makeup. So it is a bodily piece. But in terms of actual like embodiment practices, women in particular, but I know as well as men in any gender, there's such a fear of feeling the sensations that live in the body, or feeling the emotions that are in the body, or just feeling the body. People are terrified to actually be in their body because there's so much in there that perhaps hasn't been explored or felt or touched. There's memories that live in there. There's the pain body. There's potentially trauma. It's a place that, like, to some people might feel like there's a lot of hidden mines or like little bombs, and they're like, oh, I'd rather just not even go there. And it just feels safer to them. But truly, if you avoid the body, then you don't really build this capacity to hold even more abundance, more love, more gratitude, more joy, whatever the thing that you're desiring more of.
I notice that I resist to this day. I'll resist doing body work or like the exercises, homework, whatever that I'm given to do, and releasing trauma from my body. It feels, and I will do it because I want the results, and I've experienced the results, and like, it's wow. It's so powerful, and it doesn't take a long time. It can happen very quickly, but I do notice that I will procrastinate and avoid even doing those kind of exercises that get me to really drop in my body. It doesn't sound fun. It doesn't sound fun. And I've made myself believe that, it's a lot of work to be in my body. It feels like I don't know if you guys can relate who are listening, but it feels like a lot. And it seems like it would just be a lot easier for me to just multitask away.
I love this point because it could be easier in the short term, or it could be like, I think the measure is how alive do you want to feel, right? Like, how much do you want to actually live in this life versus walking around kind of like checked out, numbed out, not feeling the potential and possibilities of goodness in your life. So this is really what I'm bringing, is like elevating the standard of how good we can feel, how much we embrace aliveness, right? And so in order to do that, we must be in our bodies to experience it. The good and the bad, the dark and the light. The more we expand in one area or the other, the more of a full range that we can experience in life. And that's really, to me, what living is about.
Oh, I mean, clearly Chubbs agrees, if you guys can hear him.
Chubbs,
Whenever,
I love that name.
Yeah, that's my English bulldog, Chubbs. And whenever I'm talking to someone where we have a really strong magnetic field, because animals pick up on stuff, right? He always does this.
Hey, Chubbs.
You said the money ticket. How alive do you want to feel? I lived most of my life as a severe trauma survivor, as the Walking Dead, like a robot. Numb, Groundhog's Day, right? It's like every day is the same thing, kind of numb. And the only way I felt alive, and I know you're going to fucking get this, I bet a ton of your clients have told you this, I'd have to be partying, right? That felt alive. Or it'd have to be extreme. I love, I'm very passionate about international travel. It'd have to be like one of my extravagant, exciting trips. It'd have to be a big thing. But in my general day-to-day life, which is what most of us are in a majority of our life, it was not even neutral. It's just bleh, right? I was not alive, and I knew I wasn't alive, but like, even when it was offered to me to do all these different practices, I mean, I've been a long time student of law of attraction. I've been, I live in LA. There's all sorts of wild shit that's been offered to me over time. And I would put it off. I'd go to the gym for 4 fucking hours a day, right? I would do that. I would work. I would get my nails done. I would do all that shit. But I would avoid that work what I was avoiding, feeling alive. Do you feel that feeling that aliveness is actually, and it might be subconscious for people, but that's something they're resisting because it's so foreign to them?
100%. I personally believe that people are terrified of having the life that they desire. Right? Or even not so terrified that they might not even let themselves feel that desire, And so, yes, like feeling alive and feeling joy and that gratitude, like running through our veins, is, a lot of people have this fear that they'll lose it, right? They'll have it and then somehow it'll be lost, or they'll get to this level and they'll have to abandon people, right? So there's this piece around disconnection and fear around loss and aloneness and not belonging and things like that. But the truth is that when we're able to embody our aliveness and our power, and like the fact that we have a birthright to feel good and pleasure, everything starts to shift in your life naturally, organically, that actually supports you continuing to build this momentum of goodness, right? You start to lose friends that maybe are like people that are just like not supportive of the expansion. And so they might drop off and you just get lighter and lighter. We were kind of talking about like how we are attracted to certain vibrations and certain people, and that starts to shift. So yeah, there's just so much possibility around this. And I think the key word is around intimacy. I think this is a word that people don't always talk about. They talk about it in relationship to other people, but what about like intimacy with ourselves? And
I used to think that word meant truly, and maybe I was just ignorant, but I thought intimacy meant only sexual intimacy. I did not know it was like there was more to it than that.
There's so much more in a relationship with friends, lovers, partners, whatever. True intimacy is with ourselves first. And then that's how we can build this muscle of aliveness, right? Is like truly creating this intimate relationship with ourselves. And that means like feeling the things, like really sensitizing our system. You talked earlier about like how you needed so much to feel like the big trip and these big experiences. And that's so common because there's such a level of desensitization and numbness happening where we are pulling as a collective, as a society, more sensation. We're like addicted to adrenaline. We're addicted to high sensation. We're addicted to these big things because we have created such a high tolerance. I feel like we need to decrease our tolerance and become more sensitized so that we can live in these moment to moment like connections and feelings. Really, it's like literally feeling moment to moment. That's how we get into flow.
That is when I feel the most alive now versus like the old Tiffany, as I call her. I can just be walking back from yoga and I am fully embodied, and
Yes.
the air, the breeze, I look over, I see the ocean, and I feel it go right through my body. That gives me more pleasure than me taking a first class trip to Italy. And
I love that.
it sounds to many people listening like really bizarre. Like, what's Tiffany on? And I'm like, no, I mean, we can really, I wouldn't have believed it either. I would have been like, you know why I wouldn't have believed someone like you or even what I'm saying? Because if I believed you, that would mean that I would need to actually do the work. And I was so scared because I already felt so exhausted. Like life was so much. I had so much going on in my head. I actually felt a lot of heaviness and fatigue. And I already had all that going on. So the last thing I wanted to do was any work on getting in my body. That sounded like, well, that's only going to make me more heavy and more depleted and more in the feels and more work on pulling up all the gunk and the trauma.
Yeah, totally. But what if we started to move through each day with the intention of being in our body just 1% more? And that could just mean paying attention to a moment where there is a breeze brushing against your face and feeling it. I think a lot of times people are putting so much pressure on themselves to do all the things that it really is a commitment to the practice of just like showing up a little bit here and there, right? It all adds up. And it's not about all of a sudden you're just like orgasming as you're walking down the street, right? Like it could be.
I'd be very open to that. I mean,
but like just like embracing just a little bit more joy or pleasure in the moment is such an impactful thing because you're literally rewiring your system in that moment because you're like, oh, I'm making a different choice. Something that is loving and caring for myself and my vision.
And it's with grace and gentleness. It's not like you have to all of a sudden get zapped into your body. In fact, in my opinion, as a trauma survivor, I do not recommend that. Where like I love your approach, like 1%, like go gentle, because I've worked with, and I think it's Peter Levine, who's done a lot of like the somatic stuff, like one of the pioneers. And I did sessions with one of his like students or whatever, longtime students. And I'm sure her work is lovely. And it was so powerful. I was in my body too much. It was like, it put me in there like 60%. And I'm not joking you. It set me back like months. Like I like almost short circuited because it was too much. So that part of your approach is that you don't want to shock someone's system who's not been you spent most of your life not in your body, and all of a sudden you slam someone in it. That's going to be wild, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really is about meeting people where they are. And that comes from being in practice, holding space and facilitating. You learn over time to refine this kind of intuitive feeling. But yeah, you want to be mindful of where somebody is and how much work they have done in the body before, right? But sometimes also a shock to the system can be a good thing. So it really depends on the person and where they are and so many different factors, because maybe that's the thing that they needed to wake the fuck up, right? So sometimes somebody could use a little tiny like tap. Somebody could use a more electrical buzz, so it really does depend, but you have to be with a facilitator that you really trust. Somebody that that is like helping you to lean into your edges and really expand your capacity, and always asking you and inviting you to go deeper there, but not pushing you or making you do something that doesn't feel in alignment.
Well, that's also why I wanted to have you on, because I see a trend out there, as you guys hear me joke about Sarah, the spiritual influencer, who's microdosing and takes you on a retreat, a 3-day retreat in Costa Rica. And then all of a sudden, all of your childhood wounds are released. And I see this and it does make me cringe, and more so, it makes me concerned, because you do need to work with someone, like you said, not only who you trust, but who has also had a lot of practice.
100%.
Because it can be dangerous to take people in and then just set them off on the wild and have no support. My guess is that's why you have a year-long program.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, integration is key. I think this is something that was really important to me because I also facilitate psilocybin journeys, and as a plant medicine practitioner, and before I even became a facilitator, I just saw how there were people who just wanted to quote unquote fix themselves and go to these retreats or whatever and really pull for this healing in a peak experience, and then not integrate afterwards. And then, like you said, might feel like they went backwards or something like that. But truly, the key is in emphasizing the integration and like really what practices, because it always comes down to practices, and like practices can be fun, you guys. Like, this kind of work doesn't have to be so scary. It can actually be enjoyable. Yes, there'll probably be tears and like things that are uncomfortable too. But I think that we have made it out to be something that is so like a dragon, but like it doesn't have to be. But like those little steps, these little pieces afterwards, like really implementing the things that you learned or the insights you received is so important.
If you've spent a lifetime not in your body and suppressing things that you don't even know you're suppressing, do you really think that even in a week, even in a month, that it's all magically going to go away? Of course not. I'm not saying you can't have major movement. I've had major movement in 1 hour with the right practitioner. So tell us about the psilocybin. Tell us about who that is good for and why you feel that is something that really is a beautiful, I don't know what the right term is, like an enhancement tool to getting in the body.
Well, I would say it's a very spiritual connection, because these mushrooms are like our ancestors, not to get too deep or woo into it, but like they literally create. If you haven't seen Fantastic Fungi, please watch that on Netflix, because that will like really share with you what I'm talking about. But they're so potent and magical, but they are also like somatic healers. So they work on the nervous system, neuroplasticity, neurogenesis. They literally help to heal and alchemize the pain body, like the trauma that lives in the cellular system and the energetic system. So they help you to release these parts of you that have been living in the body and taking up space, and also allow you to help rewire your belief system through the nervous system.
Do you have a thought one way or another on like people who do regular, almost like consistent microdosing versus a full, more immersive experience with it?
Yeah, it depends on the person, where they're at in their life. Like perhaps are not in a place where they have the capacity to go into a deep experience. That might be too much for their nervous system at that time, right? Or somebody is like so ready to go. It really is about your readiness and your capacity. And so either of them are great, but they're both spiritual experiences. They're mystical experiences. And the thing that I've heard over and over, besides like the nervous system part and the somatic part, is that like people feel deeply connected and feel love in a way they never have before. And so there's a rewiring of like how much love is available, because I think there's so many people just don't believe that they are either lovable, that they're connected to love. It's like they start to get that embodiment experience of love, which is so fucking huge. Like can you imagine like knowing that you are like one? I mean, like with everything.
Now I get that. I'm a big fan of THC. And I always have been. One, for my anxiety, but two, when you've done work and you actually know what the hell you're doing, I have those expansive experiences with THC. I've never done I've done mushrooms, but like only in like party mushrooms, which I know is very different. That's a totally different thing.
Totally different.
And for you guys who are, that's what you're thinking, I understand. I thought it was the same thing too. Listen, I hit up those shrooms. I was in high school and I like threw up every time I took, like that's what I'm thinking, but it's a totally different thing. And you do have to be guided. And if you're self-guided, you have had to do a certain amount of work to get there. Like I have conversation with spirit. It doesn't scare me. I mean, I go deep, but I will tell you guys the most amazing programs and transformative content that I create for you, most of it comes from those experiences.
Yeah, there's a channel that's just open and clear, and you're just tapped in to that source. And it just comes through. And we actually have that access at any time, with or without plant medicine. But like, it is an amazing tool to support us in that, to help to open up that space.
So it is possible to get to a similar state without using a substance.
Yeah, it's different, but similar. But yeah, it's like, there's always a different way. There's so many paths to awakening, right? Or so many paths to freedom. So this is just one really powerful way. I think it always comes down to what your intuition is saying. That's what I always, whenever I have a call with a potential client, I always say, don't make your decision with your mind. Make your decision with your knowing. What does it feel like in your body when you are so tapped into your intuition and you just feel that yes or that no, right? It's just like we can be tapped in at any point, and we just have to keep being willing to practice being in that kind of relationship with something that lives in us, which is that power source, the life force energy. Right? So we always have access to it. It's just that we have a lot of resistance to feeling it and feeling our power.
So many, especially people I identify as women, have the confusion, right? There's a lot of, I'm torn with it. Should I leave my job? Should I start a business? Should I get a divorce? Should I have a kid? There's so much, I'm confused. I'm not sure if I should do this, and then chewing on it and chewing on it. And my guess is there's a lot of people, when you've said, to go in your body, or even you guys listening right now, to go into your body and you have a knowing, I think that is still can be very difficult to identify that if you've never done it before. Are there any, I don't know, the word trick isn't a good word, but are there any kind of tips that you can share to be able to tell in your body if something is coming from like your higher self and you should lean into it, or if it's something you should lean out of?
Yeah, I'll give a couple simple, like basic level things. One is if your body is feeling tight or like tension or blocked or heavy, perhaps that's your body saying, oh, maybe this is a no for me. Right. So you have to start paying attention and doing research and noticing how your body is reacting in certain places, right? You start to see patterns, or like maybe you notice when you're getting an intuitive hit that it's like an idea or that comes out of nowhere. Maybe you notice that your body feels more open and light in those moments. Another trick could be asking yourself a yes or no question and letting your body say either mm-hmm or seeing what sound literally wants to come out. Like let's do a trick right now.
Okay.
Let's practice.
Are you going to ask me a question?
Yeah. Like, okay, is there a question that you are not sure about?
I want you to kind of, I don't know, just come up with something. I trust whatever you come up with.
Okay. The first question that came up for me is, do you desire to be in a partnership? Now just let the sound or come up immediately.
What came up in my head before that was hell no, and then came up. But now I'm going into my head. Now I'm going, but is that my ego? Is that my fear body responding? Or is that my truth?
Right. So when you said, it felt like you were very clear about it.
It felt very clear and grounded.
It felt like it literally was a sound that just arose.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Up and out of your mouth.
Yes.
That's the feeling, like this arising. Because I think a lot of times when people are confused, what's happening is that they're so attached to using their mind to figure out the answer. And so they're searching for shit, right? They're like on the hunt. They got a flashlight out and looking in every fucking corner. Is this it? Is this it? And from that process, it literally confuses them more, right? And they start to second guess what they even know to be true. But the thing is with intuition and knowing, you don't get it from trying to look for things and figure things out. It literally is something that arises up and out, just like what happened for you, right? It literally comes up. And the only way it can come up is if we have enough space, enough spaciousness within us so that can arise. And using our mind and overthinking things creates more clutter.
Yeah, because if I didn't have space, and for me, space is, I need to have stillness. I need to be present. Sometimes I need quiet. Sometimes it's releasing like tension from my body. But how I used to operate, which was I was nonstop. I was always doing something. I never allowed stillness because I didn't like what came up. So I just kept moving and moving and moving. But that's where the fucking answers are.
Exactly. They're right there. Like they're literally right there, Tiffany. And this piece around like really, like I teach a lot about feminine and masculine energy, yin and yang, which is based on Taoism. And like for us as women or any human being to be more tapped into our feminine energy means to relax and soften and open and receive, right? That's why we're not searching for answers. We're receiving the answer. It literally just arises when we give ourselves permission to fucking take a nap or like to have more pleasure, to make a different choice, or even to have a different thought. Like we're so addicted as a culture to suffering, addicted to suffering.
Totally. It's insane. It's like, and why do you think there's the addiction? Because there's an addiction only occurs when there is a true perceived payoff. So what is the payoff of being addicted to suffering?
There's two parts here. So, so many people have trauma in their body or what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body, which is stuck emotions in the body, right? So there's so many of us that have that. When we have this trauma in our body or pain body, it wants more of the same. It has an addictive quality to it. And so from the get-go, that's why it's so important to heal the pain body so that we can create the space of like less addictive parts of our body that want more of the same. Then our mind, the way we think and the thoughts we have and the belief systems we have in the subconscious literally creates a type of chemical in our body, whether it's good or bad, right? So if we're having more adrenaline and cortisol running through our head, through our body, because we're thinking like all these negative thoughts and beliefs, then we're adding even more onto that pain body. And we just want to create more and more of the same.
It's if someone is addicted to nicotine.
Yes.
Right? You're going to just want, or alcohol, right? It's you want more, you want more, you want more. You're saying it's the same thing. It's our inner drugstore.
Yes. And, the key here is to work with both the mind and the body. I think a lot of times some people who do embodiment work are only focused on that. And some people who do mindset work only focus on it. Really is about the combination of the feminine and masculine. So the feminine yin is the body and the masculine yang is the mind. And we need both to work together in tandem in order to really, truly elevate and create in the ways that we desire.
Why is receiving so vulnerable for so many people?
I mean, there's so many reasons, but I think essentially that people don't think they're worthy of it. They don't think they're worthy of the thing that they say that they want to receive. And like, it could be so like something that you would think is like so small, right? I had an episode on my Tao of Po podcast about eye contact and how that was really scary for me before. I'm also a multiple sex trauma survivor. And for a long time, I was terrified to make love. I was more like acting myself by either performing, dominating, or me penetrating the other person, all these sneaky tactics to avoid the true intimacy and receiving. And so I knew that was an edge for me that I needed to really explore. And when I finally allowed myself to make love and have this kind of like such vulnerable, intimate eye contact while being penetrated, it was just like it changed my life. Because it was just this little thing or seemingly a little thing, right? Just like somebody opening up my heart to let somebody see me in that moment, right? But it was so vulnerable because I didn't think for a long time that I deserved, that I was worthy to receive that kind of love. Because my experiences, my trauma told me that I would literally think in my head, Tiffany, you're a piece of trash. You're a disposable piece of garbage. That was literally through my teens and 20s, a reoccurring thought and belief I had. And I had to do the work to heal the trauma and to rewire that whole belief system. And finally, over many years of practice, I was able to make love for the first time, which was in my 40s. Right?
But it's better than 90s.
I'm not saying it as a complaint. I'm saying it as like permission for your listeners. Like it takes as much time as it takes.
Receiving for me, I had those same thoughts you did for sure in like teens and 20s. And then I've done so much work, and then the receiving's become, and I still have some of this that I'm working through, is that there's going to be a catch. It's that it's not fully safe. And some areas of my life, it's very obvious. I feel very safe to receive, like money.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think this is a really good point because the safety, it has to happen for ourselves first. We have to feel safe in our own bodies on our own. We can't feel safe in connection in these intimate ways with another person unless we have that kind of connection with ourselves first. We can't try to get it from somebody else to fill in that hole. right? As they would say in 12-step program, the God size hole.
Yeah.
It really has to happen within ourself first so we can believe it, so we can open up to receiving it.
What's I find so fascinating about you, and I'm sure you are open to talking about it. Culturally, what you are talking about and what you specialize in is very different than what is taught or expected, probably from like how you were raised. Would that be correct?
I mean, definitely my culture is very different, but like in a way, I mean, there's so many answers to this. I would say that my parents are more liberal than typical Chinese parents. And my dad is actually my spiritual teacher. He's the one.
Oh, wow. Okay, that
is
unusual.
Yes, he just turned 91, and like he's the most accepting person. And
I love that.
He taught me the foundations of my spiritual teachings. So yes, it is very different, but I also have a very interesting background, like a very diverse background with all different kind of cultures, all kinds of teachings and learnings and personal experiences. And so I really am like a melting pot of different elements that create this holistic way that I work.
How did you become like this? Like, when did you know? And it could, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's from birth, that you have this gift, like you are a true healer.
Yeah, I would say that like 8 years old was the first time I laid my hands on my mom. And so it was just the natural thing. She was feeling sick, and I literally was just putting my hands on her and putting energy into her. And she's, oh my God, I feel so much better. I don't know if she was just saying that to make me feel good or not, but I remember just naturally using my hands in this way. And I didn't have the thought I'm a healer because I didn't know what that was at 8 years old, but it's always been a part of me. But I have to say that my rapes were my initiation, my true initiation, and my parents' divorce as well. All my trauma was my initiation into being the spiritual advisor and healer. My own experiences of healing has literally created my business.
Are you saying like all the work that you've chosen and had to do to heal from these traumatic experiences is what made you realize like you really had these very unique, special gifts?
Yes. I mean, it was a combination of, there were innate gifts that I had, and then the experiences and healings that I had even brought them out even more, magnified them. And I just had always a natural knack with people in this way. And so it was kind of undeniable, even though I had gone through all kinds of different careers to get to this place. It took time, and I had to really own who the fuck I am. You know what I mean? Like really own my medicine, my work here on this earth. And that took a lot of work in itself, because sometimes we want to deny why we're here and why we chose to come here. And that's we're talking a lot about like healing trauma. And that's like the first part. That's like the baseline, the foundational work. But like, we're also taking it to the next level of, okay, let's get in our bodies. Let's get embodied. Let's heal our bodies, but not to stop there. We're doing that so we can propel ourselves to this next level of really owning our power as a creator. And that means that we have ripple effects of impact in these most magical ways beyond what we even thought is possible, but perhaps we dreamed as a child, right? And like really allowing ourselves to have that permission to like fucking go for it. So healing is part one, but that creates the solid foundation so we can take off.
It is scary when you know you're meant for more than what you're doing now, or you really know you are meant to just impact people on a very high, large magnitude. I find myself and, some of my stuff from us spending those 3 days together. And it's like, it's almost like there's the ego ego part of me, right, almost doesn't want to believe it, but my body knows it's true. But it sounds, there's something so unfamiliar. There's something almost so scary about it because it's like a limitless thing.
Yeah,
And
it's
that
limit. Go
it's
ahead.
limitless. Yeah. It feels like someone's dropped me off in the middle of a field in the middle of Texas, and here you are. And it just feels like a lot, where what feels comfortable, even though it's not really comfortable, is like the box I had put myself in.
Absolutely. I mean, what you're talking about, limitlessness, is like being tapped into source, really, because that's where our gifts come from. That's where our soul purpose is. Like, that's when we're ultimately living in our best life, I think, is when we are owning this limitless part of us that wants to be expressed and shared and given freely. I mean, when I say freely, meaning generously with people. Because, for me, I held so much in. I was withholding so much love, withholding my gifts because of my own ego getting in the way, me getting in my way of like sharing. And that just is miserable. I felt miserable. I felt miserable because I knew that there was this part of me that needed to be shared. And I think we all have that in one way or another.
I do too. And it's different how it shows up for everyone. And holding and staying in resistance of that limitless is what's making you sick and miserable. It's what's making you exhausted. It's what's having you retain weight. It's what's having you get sick all the time. I mean, people were dropping like flies during that retreat. And it wasn't lost on me, and I'm not judging them.
Totally.
I see this happen. You guys know that I'm part of Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families, which is a 12-step program. And there's a step in 12 steps, step 4, which is like gnarly as shit. Okay. Like it's heavy.
I remember that step.
Yeah. And people drop like flies in step 4 too. They get sick. It's like, and that's just a way, it's almost like a subconscious way of they're going, abort mission. This is unsafe. This is too much. Right.
Absolutely, because we start to hit that ceiling of what's possible. And the ego or the pain body's like, I'm out of here, because this goodness can feel unsafe when we're so used to suffering,
Yes.
Suffering
just if some people in sobriety, sober from anything, maybe it's like whatever one's addiction is, the addiction is the familiar. Mm-hmm. Life being sober or without the thing or the person or whatever the hell it is, the vice, that's what keeps most people going back to the addiction, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is an identification with victim consciousness. I don't know if you know about the victim triangle, but there's like the victim, the rescuer, and the perpetrator. It's really profound, but can we switch over from victim or / scarcity energy to abundant and creator energy? Like, this is a thing. Victims don't know how powerful, they deny their power. They deny that they're a creator. But this is the funny thing, you guys, we're always creating no matter what. Like, literally, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're creating from your belief system. And so you could be like, no, I want it this way. But if you're thinking and believing certain negative things, then that's what's creating your reality. It really is that powerful. And so
it really is. It's like, it can be scary because, I can, be in my cunty moods, and it's like, don't take it so literally. Oh, you're in a bad mood one day and now you're going to manifest, horrible things. You're saying it's like deeper than that. It's like your deep internal knowings and beliefs is where that's coming from. It's not really like a fleeting mood.
No, and honestly, embodiment work is really about allowing yourself to be like, feel those feelings. You know what I mean? So we don't want to push anything down and be like, oh no, we're denying and bypassing something. So I think that's when we give ourselves grace. It's, yeah, we're allowed to be human. Like, what the fuck, you know? And also knowing that we are these divine beings that have so much more power and strength than we even realize. Truly. It's a paradigm shift, but like, it's available. It's available.
If you are obsessed with this conversation, A, you need to share it with the first people that come to your mind. B, take a screenshot, put it on your social media, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany, and tag Poe at Pohong, POHONG.YU. If you're multitasking, just tag me and I'll make sure to reshare it and tag her and share that like appreciation and this expansion. My guess is you're feeling right now, you already feel like something's opened up in you just from listening to this. And that isn't just because we're talking about it intellectually. You're feeling both of our energy, right, transmitting through the airwaves to you. That's giving you that wake up consciousness, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Raising the bar of what's possible and like inviting people to come higher with us. Look, like, we all need that to be able to be shown what else is possible so that we don't have to live in that box that you were talking about earlier.
And using 12-step as an example, this is someone else is, or even weight loss, right? Like someone who's sober and been sober a long time, and they're saying, this is what's on the other side of leaving behind that addiction that's not serving you. That's what we're saying. This is what's on the other side of that addiction to misery, right? This is what's on the other side of someone who is resisting taking better care of their body, etc. You're watching someone who's going, look, I lost 100 pounds. I'm no longer miserable and exhausted, whatever. And you're seeing actual concrete proof of what's there, but we can't make you do the work, but we're inviting you. So those who feel, as you taught us, right, in your body, who feel very leaned in and are like, ooh, like, I'm curious, like, I want to do, at least explore some of this work. What are some ways that they can work with you?
Yeah, so I have a program called Come starting November 21st, which is a 6-month online group program for women where we're going deep into connecting with our bodies sensually, sexually, healing, doing inner child work. There'll be like hot seat coaching, but it's going to be a deep dive into self-intimacy. And really, the question for this program, the inquiry is like, how good are you willing to feel in your body? This is like that. This is what I'm bringing to Come. How good can you actually feel in your body? And then I also have a program, a 1-year, I guess, mastermind, you might call it, starting next year for leaders and creators who are really desiring to create the next level of reality and using the mind, body, and spirit work. We can make anything happen. So those are a couple of ways. And I also do one-on-one in-person deep dives and journeys, but we can get on a call and talk about it and explore and see.
Yeah. And see what is that yes for you. Because like you said, it's different for everyone on where they're at and what is the best fit. I just encourage you, like you said, allow yourself even 1%, even put that out into the universe. I'm allowing myself 1% at a time, right? To expand, to feel alive, to allow myself. So you're just doing just one little step towards it at a time. Like, I don't think your ego is going to push back too hard on that.
I love that, because I want to just share that my dad told me something years ago that always stuck with me is like, when we make an adjustment, like even just 1%, 1 degree, you're literally in a whole different trajectory, even if it's just 1%.
It's true. Because if you follow that line, like if you draw it, and I don't know, what is it, a compass? What's the shit we used in school?
I think so.
I clearly wasn't paying attention much in school. But if you if you drew 1 degree off and you drew a straight line, it is a different trajectory.
Completely different trajectory. And so that's the power of these little tiny moments or choices throughout your day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. It literally can alter your whole reality just by taking that one little shift.
This is so good. I adore you. I'm so happy the universe brought us together. When I told you, you are one of the gifts from attending that. I mean that with all my heart. Like that was worth the 10 grand. That and the tart. There's an amazing fruit tart that I was obsessed with. I'm like, that and the fruit tart. That's it right there.
Girl, I'm so grateful. When I met you, I was like, yes, my people are here. Yes, I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that you invited me to be here. It's been so freaking lovely.
Thank you for sharing your energy with us.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.